Greetings, fellow pilots. My name is Commander Grey Wolf, and this is another Elite Dangerous video. Now, today I wanted to have a look at approaching starports in Super Cruise and the optimal vector to take in order to arrive at the forward face of the station where the airlock is, reducing the amount of flight time in real space in order to get there. Now, traveling in Super Cruise is a skill in itself that takes practice, and although there's a lot of information provided to help you judge your speed and distance, much of it's about feel. And experienced pilots will tell you that there are no dead set hard and fast rules about how to maneuver and approach, accelerate and decelerate towards certain targets and locations. It just comes with practice. Now, what I wanted to look at in this particular video was approaching a Coriolis or orbital station, the path that you take, the points where you need to accelerate and decelerate in order to arrive at that station in the optimal time without it taking too long, without overshooting the target and having to flip round. No loops of shame in this video. Now, for those newer pilots that are perhaps unaware of this, one feature that is always true of all Coriolis and orbital starports is that the airlock, the forward face of the station, is always pointed inward towards whatever planetary or astronomical body that it's orbiting. So with that in mind, whenever you approach a starport, it's advisable for a pilot to be able to either climb up above or down below the orbiting station and planet in question, and then hook back in and approach on a perpendicular angle to the orbital axis of the station itself. That way, you're able to maneuver the ship in between the planet and the station, level off, and come in on a horizontal plane towards the station itself. Now, to get a better idea of what that all looks like, we can review it in the following diagram.
Okay, so here we have a diagram showing a Coriolis station in orbit around a planet. It has the orbital track itself along with the optimal approach vector, and I've also indicated the gravity well of the planet that it's orbiting. The optimal approach vector shows diagrammatically what I was describing about coming in on that track perpendicular, either from the top down or from underneath up. Either way doesn't matter. And as you bring your ship in between the planet and the station and are in a horizontal line with both of those, you're then able to pull up level and be facing the station. Having the orbital lines switched on will help you greatly in judging whether you've actually reached that horizontal plane or not. And then you can then move towards the station and drop out of Super Cruise at the appropriate point, and you should be roughly facing the forward face of the station. Now, also included the gravity well in this diagram for players that are not new into the game and not familiar with what exactly this is. All planets have a gravity well, which is it's essentially the gravitational effect that they give off. And that effect can be a help or a hindrance, depending on the situation. When you're super cruising towards a starport, it can be a hindrance because if you get too close to the gravity well, then the effects of that gravity will start to slow your ship down. And you're not in any danger as such, but it'll just inhibit good, efficient forward progress towards the station. So you simply would, to counter that, pull away from the planet and you'll see the speed increase. But conversely, if you're coming in too quickly, if you can see that the distance in light seconds is dropping too fast, you can sometimes hear the engines whining, and in the most extreme case, you'll have a warning come up saying slow down. So there are a few indicators that will give you an idea that you're now going to be approaching your target too quickly. So in that instance, you can maneuver the ship a little bit closer to the planet than you would normally like to take advantage of that gravity well, to skim off the edge of it, just clip that and just to trim down your forward velocity and slow the ship down to a more manageable speed. You can also use the compass to judge whether you've reached that horizontal plane before pulling up, in addition to the orbit lines, and I'll be pointing that out later on in the video. But this diagram just gives you an idea of the ideal trajectory and the maneuver you need to come in at the right point and at the right level to be facing the station in an efficient manner.
Well, here we are now approaching Hopkins Dock, it's just a little under 2,000 light seconds from our current position. And I tend to find that anything under 2,000 light seconds away allows me to trim my speed at particular intervals in a particular way to get a pretty consistent outcome. Now, it's worth noting that if you keep your approach speed at half impulse at 50%, then the FSD computer will automatically slow down to an appropriate and safe dropout speed. However, this just takes too long, so this tutorial is about approaching at the maximum quickest efficient time, as well as the right trajectory for the station itself. Now at this range, I'm going to wait until we break about 300 light seconds and trim off 20%. So 2 clicks down, I'm now down to 80% engine thrust. And then I'll wait until we break 100 light seconds and take off another 10%, which I've just done now. So we're now at 70%. Now maintaining this speed will allow me to arrive at the orbiting station in the fastest but also safest speed without overshooting. And as we draw close, I can now start to see the orbital track of the station around the planet, and this will allow me to maneuver the ship and achieve that approach vector that I described in the diagram. I'm going to come down from this angle here, but I want to come in perpendicular. The more maneuverable your ship is in Super Cruise, the more easy you'll be able to find this maneuver. But I'm looking to actually position the ship between the planet and the starport, as you can see here. I'm just going to roll 90 degrees, keep that approach vector. Now you can see on the compass, just to the left of my central scanner, the starport targeted is climbing up towards the top of that circle. When it reaches the top, you can pull up. I can look left and right just to check I'm a little bit high, so I'm just going to dip down a bit more. And we're now facing horizontally, and it's safe to disengage. Now, you won't always necessarily come out directly in front of the station, but it's close enough.
Gutenmeier Golf, Romeo Echo. Please comply with flight regulations as you approach the station, Commander.
Now, standard procedure for me in this instance will be to turn external lights on, which I use almost like anti-collision lights, and I'll divert power to systems, just in case there's the capacity for a collision. The ship is protected. And now in this position, I'm able to dock quickly and efficiently without having to spend a lot of time boosting around the station to reach the airlock. Now we're approaching Hopkins Dock again, and this time I'm going to allow my speed to creep up just a little bit more than I would ideally like, in order to give you an example of how to use the gravity well of a planet to shave a little bit of that forward momentum from your ship speed. And to throttle up, and this obviously won't help bring the ship to a controllable speed if you're moving way past the safe speed, but it's just a way to trim off a little bit of that forward momentum and help you bring the ship under control. So we're going to approach in the same way as before and wait to break that 300 light second barrier. Okay, here we go. I'm going to trim off 20%. As I mentioned before, distances over about 2,000 light seconds will require you to make these speed adjustments earlier because you'll have developed that much more forward speed. But in this instance, they work quite well and quite consistently. Now, as the planet and the orbital track of the station come into view, I can now see the position on the orbital track of where the station is. And just nudge the speed up a little bit. Now I can just see by my approach speed and just the climb in the sound of the engines that I'm moving a little bit too quickly, and I will overshoot. So I'm going to just skim the edge of the planet. See, I've already got the slowdown warning coming in here, but if I skim the planet, you can see the ship start to slow down, engine noise levels off, throttle comes back down, and I've brought the ship back under control. A little look left and right will show me that I'm a little bit too high. So I'm going to dip down and bring it up. Now, even though I'm getting the slowdown warning, I'm close enough to still safely disengage, as the info panel there on the left shows me that both markers are in the blue. Now we can drop out of Super Cruise and find ourselves at the target station. And there we are.
Okay, well that's it from me. I hope you found this tutorial useful. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to like and subscribe. My name is Commander Grey Wolf, and remember, keep it dangerous.